Okay, we have some resolution to our throttle cable issue. What we ended up doing was we took that extra bit out that we put on this end of it, and we lengthened the sheathing by 1.5 inches over on the end that goes through the firewall. Kind of hard to see with the cables in the way, but basically what we did was we took the so this plastic bulkhead gadget was on the cruise control cable. I took the one off of the throttle cable and basically butted them together and connected them with a piece of 3/8 fuel line with a couple of hose clamps. So it's nice and sturdy, and it'll probably last a very long time, even though it's not exactly the right thing to do. Then we on this end we use the bottom rung here on the bottom opening on the throttle connection, and this is actually a piece of brake line that I tapped to 632 and put a couple of screws in it to crimp the cable. Now the only issue you might run into this, being that this engine didn't belong in this car and this throttle blade is not designed to work with the geometry of the gas pedal in this car. You may have to play around with the geometry to get it to actually open to full throttle like that. But this is actually pretty close. I shot some video, well, since we're in coronavirus lockdown and nobody else lives here and I can't get my neighbors over here to put their foot on the floor to because of social distancing and all that, which will make it interesting when we get to do the brakes too, because that's a 2-person job. So I don't know, we'll burn that bridge when we get there, but anyway, it seems like it opens at least 95% of the way, so it'll do for now. We may have to either modify the pedal stop. That would probably be the best way, just modify the pedal stop, because you probably only need a 1/4 inch of pedal travel or less to finish it. So I'll show you the throttle opening video in a minute, but back to our cluster of stuff here that caused the last video of the little things. So what we've done is we took this bracket, and as I mentioned before, we cut this off of it, cut this end off of it. But further, we went and moved the mounting hole from back here to up here to better clear this cable end here. It's still in contact with it, but it's not really going to cause any problems. So that works. I'm fairly happy with that. We actually used a smaller fastener too, and this closeness is caused because we had to cut a new keyway in this bracket to match up with this throttle body. So that's pretty much taken care of. I'm kind of happy with the way that came out. And we moved it all the way forward on this rear bracket housing, so we can actually plug the map sensor in and there's no interference, so we can plug it in, we can unplug it and do whatever we want. Not a big deal. The other part of that was this fuel line. So I tried taking the fuel line and running it under the throttle body. It was pretty tight fit there, and running it in front here, you got the belt here, you got this thing moving around, and you don't want anything to cut your high pressure fuel line while you're driving it. Believe me, that's having experienced that's pretty disastrous. So what we decided to do was go around this way and under the fuel rail and over top of the intake manifold. You know, it's not ideal. I don't like having that much rubber line out here, but there's nothing to really interfere with it up there. Running it down here puts it in direct contact with the steam pipe, so I didn't like that. It's touching a water pump. All those things, you know, they can be 200 degrees or so. So heating up modern fuel is not something you want to do before you inject it into the engine. You want to keep it as cool as possible. So this is probably what we're going to end up doing. I like that. So that's this area figured out. So we can move on with our lives, get back onto the rear suspension. I think we're done playing with stuff in the engine compartment right now. We have our spot marked out where we have to bash in the frame rail here to clear this pump. I've got a spot marked back here where the header's actually touching the frame rail. We'll give that a few whacks with the BFH. And what else we got here? Oh, we have to plug the old cruise control cable hole in the firewall. And oh, we want to put the PCU channel against the firewall back there to mount the fuel pressure regulator and the power module. And that'll make a nice tray for the hoses and those cables to set in, you know, right along the back of the firewall there. And I bought some new battery cable ends. These, as you can see, the battery cables are a little, they've seen better days. Yeah, that's corroding wire right there. So we're going to replace them while the engine's out, because it'll just be easier that way. And that's pretty much it. So what we're going to do is probably do the rear suspension, index the torsion bars and all that stuff, and then we'll pull the motor out again, take care of those things we talked about, and press on. Next, here's the throttle opening video. Okay, we're going to do this one more time here. I'm going to hold it open because it looked like we might have actually got full throttle, which would be fantastic. That means we're done and we have a good solution.